Thank you, Joey. Welcome to the Capital Investment Committee meeting for Thursday, March 28th. We have guests in the audience, which is not always typical, so welcome. We're going to call the meeting to order by calling roll. So Alderman Beverly Berger, present. Matt Brown.
Present.
I do not do titles well, and I'm here as well. We will start with the setting of the agenda. Any consideration of making changes or approve as written?
Maybe we can,
Move to approve as written?
sure you don't want to move something around?
No.
Second.
All right, I have a first and a second. Then we have to vote. Bev, how do you vote?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next on the agenda is citizen comments. I don't have any speaker cards, so I'm going to assume we're clear there. Item number 2, approval of minutes from the February 22nd, 2024 Capital Investment Committee meeting. May I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you so much. I guess there's no discussion, so we'll start with the vote. Bev, how do you vote?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Moving on to new business, item number 3, consideration to deny sewer availability for 1109 Holly Hill Drive, 1113 Holly Hill Drive, 1201 Holly Hill Drive, and 1111 Shannon Lane. Michelle.
Yeah, hi. So this is a request for a sewer availability. I brought Scott, our engineer, and then Ben McNeil, who is our infrastructure development manager, to kind of do most of the talking for this.
Yeah, so these are, like you said, 4 homes. They're in the Red Wing Farms subdivision between I-65 and Lewisburg Pike. It's in the county. I'd like to kind of talk about some background of the area first before we get into the specifics of these homes. So in 2021, 1115 Holly Hill Drive came in requesting sewer using a grinder pump to existing city sewer on Moon Bay Drive, adjacent and north of this property in a city subdivision. We recommended disapproval, as we typically do for this kind of thing, because it's not an orderly expansion of the system. Also because the service would cross multiple lots. It's something we don't like to get into. It's not compliant with municipal code. And grinders are generally only permitted by the city when gravity is just not an option. So the board approved the connection for this one home with that grinder pump as a temporary solution. There were some contingencies placed on this, including an annexation agreement, the fact that the homeowner would be required to participate in any future sewer following the basin plan, special assessment district, however that plays out. And that when the sewer was extended, gravity sewer was extended, they would be required to connect at that time at their expense. As a result of that meeting, the board also requested that Water Management conduct a small area plan for the Red Wing Meadows area, Red Wing Farms area. So we started working on that, and shortly after 1107 Holly Hill Drive came in and requested the same kind of thing. And this one, we also recommended disapproval. It was crossing more lots to get to city sewer. Same objections we had on the first one, not an orderly expansion, crossing multiple lots, grinders, not generally permitted. And at the time, our small area plan was underway, and it had a preliminary layout showing that gravity sewer was an option for this home. The board approved that connection for one home with the same contingencies as 1115. The agreements, annexation and availability agreements, contributing to future sewer, all the other things. So the current request, as you mentioned, is 1109 Holly Hill Drive, 1113 Holly Hill Drive, 1201 Holly Hill Drive, and 1111 Shannon Lane. These properties, just for clarity's sake, 2 of them are owned by the same owner. The other 2 are individual owners, but the same family brought them all in together, so that's why we brought all these in as one piece. Plus, it's all in the same neighborhood, so it's a larger impact than each individual home. They are all requesting approval to connect with grinder pumps to the existing force mains from the previous approvals. Well, I know it seems sometimes like we don't like sewer and we're the sewer department, but we're recommending disapproval for a few reasons. One is that 1107 and 1115 currently connect to city sewer through private services. There's no more room at that manhole really for additional private services, which means if these were approved, they would all have to connect to existing pressurized services, which would make those public mains serving more than one home. That means it would be this responsibility of the city to maintain and repair those services. And in addition, that it results in public sewer being created by private entities, not engineering judgment. The city looking at how it should be served and following best practices to allow as many people to connect to the sewer as possible. So in my mind, that sets a bad precedent. We also, the low pressure sewer is different than gravity. When you come in and create a subdivision and you put 8-inch gravity pipe, for example, in the ground, I mean, you do have an idea of how many homes are going to connect to it, but the order of the homes connecting to it doesn't really change the size. It doesn't really change the features of the system. With low pressure, you're starting out with a few homes in a small diameter pipe, and you're required to maintain a minimum velocity by the state on the fluids and solids inside the pipe. Now, as you add homes to it, it slows that down. You have to upsize the pipe. So if you do something like this and you have a few homes on it and you start tying in more, that pipe, every time you hit a certain wall with velocity, you're having to upsize that pipe. You have to go dig it all back up, relay it, interrupt people's enjoyment of their yards and things like that. And we've seen with other situations, once a property gets sewer that is in a non-sewer area, other people come in and they want it as well. So we would expect to see an increase of requests in this area if this was approved. And that's just going to make that whole situation worse with the low pressure sewer and having to extend the size of that pipe. Now, one of the reasons that we usually, the main reason we usually recommend disapproval of these is we say it's not an orderly expansion of the system. An orderly expansion of the system consists of following the board-approved basin plans and any small area plans that might be in place for the area. Sewering with grinder pumps is contradictory to the layout identified with a small area plan that we've preliminary completed, have not taken to the board for approval yet. It shows that there's gravity sewer. There's an option of serving these with gravity sewer going along Holly Hill Drive, up Lewisburg Pike to River Bluff Drive, to the existing sewer there. Yeah, you can show the,
That'd be great.
so if you can zoom into properties there. Yeah. So like I said, we're not against sewering homes, but in sewering homes, we want it done in a responsible way that maximizes the benefit to, entire neighborhoods, streets, and not just a few individuals. So as we mentioned, in the background, the small area plan was requested by the board and we had it completed. It shows that gravity sewer, like I say, is an option for these homes. The overall plan turned out to be pretty expensive per lot though. So if our preference is for this sewer to be put in as per the basin plan, understanding that it's expensive, we're willing to look at reevaluating the plan. There's a lot of deep sewer in some areas, and that's causing some of the price to be higher. So we're willing to look at the plan in further detail and try to shallow up some of the pipe using grinder pumps and force mains to reduce the cost burden for all the people in the subdivision, but in a responsible way that serves the greater good. So we just recommend denial of the availabilities unless it's done the right way, or giving us time to evaluate the options and come up with a cheaper alternative to do it in a way that fits with the small area plan and serves the greater good of the community.
So one thing to add to that, with that small area plan, there are some areas that are quite deep in sewer. It would behoove everybody to go back and look at that and try make an attempt to see if there are areas where we could cut those depths down. And that might require some low pressure in some of the areas. With everything that we've had going on, we've not been able to really sit down and go back through that. But it would be good for all parties involved to take that and review it and see if we could not work through a combined gravity and low pressure system that would cheapen that option up. But just wanted to clarify that.
And I know the applicants are here, so
Yeah.
I want everyone to be aware so they can answer
Yeah.
questions or.
Randy, so I was gonna ask.
We need a motion to discuss.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, so just note, you're approving denial.
Denial.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. It is denial. No, I'm make a motion.
That's correct, if I'm
No, I don't want to approve to deny at this point. I make a motion to approve. I make a motion to approve it. That's what I want to say right now, and then we can discuss it.
Grant availability?
Grant availability, yeah.
Second.
All
Okay,
right,
now-
now discussion.
I've got a bunch of questions first. I wish like the applicant could come up, whoever that's going to be. Is it going to?
The applicant wanted to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah, and a couple of questions I'd like to have answered. Is Doug coming up too? Yeah, hold chair over, here, Doug. That's fine, hold on. A couple of questions I want you to answer for me too is the health of the septic systems that you have in these lots. Because I don't want another year or two to go by and then you have a failing system and then we've not been able to do anything.
Right.
That's not good. And if, I mean, like, how, do you have to have it pumped? Or, you know, I mean, my sister has had a septic system for years, and they pump it every 5 years or something. They don't do it every, or even more than that. So I'd like you to answer that, the health of the system and that kind of stuff, and give us some more information.
1109, 11.
You need to turn that mic and turn it to, yeah.
For the record,
Just
Doug,
pull it in.
for the record, Doug Hale on behalf of the owners of 1109 and 1113. These are old systems. They're single systems, single tanks. Except for 1109, for some reason, that system was bifurcated 40 plus years ago. So if you go out there, you got a single system, but you got two separate tanks, okay? My daughter, a single mother of three, works all day, comes home and gets, all she steps into her bedroom is the smell of effluent. Okay, we've had enough of it. And we went to the county to try to put an alternate system in the back.
No.
Not enough soil.
Why
Denied.
don't you do it?
So 1113 is where my wife and I lived and raised our kids. We built that home 1979 as a single system in the front. At the time, there was no requirement for reserve systems. They likewise. We built the tennis court in the back and the pool. So at the time, it was fully compliant. Now there is no room to make any improvements to this home because you cannot locate an alternative reserve system in the backyard. It's clayed, it's been excavated. Neither one of these systems work effectively, and the consequence of not getting on the sewers, we have no assurances that, particularly in Caroline's case, 1109, that the system won't fail. And same with 1113. They have 4 kids in that home. They pump their tank repeatedly. To answer your question, these systems need replacing, but there's not sufficient soil on the site to bring them up to new county standards, which with A and B
You
primary
have
and reserve systems.
septic smell in the house?
Yeah, 1109 does, yes. And I don't know if Jonas has the smell on your, 1201 has it. Yeah. So we're here out of necessity, really. Now, the multiple lots that were referred to by staff, these lots are now all contiguous. So lots in the back, the easement in the back, there's no longer a going through multiple lots. It's the easement serves each of the lots. The easement would provide
Easement would
service
serve-
to each of the lots.
The
So you-
easement
So
would.
you're not crossing a lot that would not be
And all
served.
these lots are in the same family units, your families, right?
well, 1109, 1113, 1111, no, 1109 and 1113 are contiguous,
Contiguous, okay.
and 1201 is separated by, what, one house, Henry Home?
Yeah, 1201, but I
Yeah.
can expand on
Put the mic.
those two
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so just recently, I paid Harper Rudder, or Rudder Harper's his name, lives out in Paytonsville and has done septic work for me for years. But he came over and spent $1,500 with him a month ago. We paid him last week, I think. And he had to, it's a basement house. My father built 70s for my grandmother. And every time that tank gives a problem, it backs up the sewer in the laundry room of the basement. So it comes into the laundry room sink and the effluent backs up in it. Horrible smell. It takes several days to get that smell out. But in any case, that happened again. And you're always digging up the yard again. You're digging up the tanks and you're having to pump them and you're having to run suction through there to try to find the traps that are throughout that house built long ago and added on to and all those things. Anyway, same problem. To address you on, Alderman, on the capacity at the manhole, when Matt Bryan, our engineer, designed that system, he designed that system with a manifold that had 7 valves or 8 valves on that manifold, so we wouldn't have to dig up against the manhole more than one time.
Oops, sorry.
With the possibility of adding on a few more homes like that. So the line was sized down the property line, and it was connected to the first 2 houses there. And so the line's already in the ground to all these houses. They're private. There's no burden on the city to maintain them, other than open the manhole once in a while and see if there's any problem. Which there's no solids. It's total fluid that's going through the valves and the manifolds there. So it's our problem if there's a problem, and obviously the property owner and the way it's easement and all that. So I feel like that. It's a temporary fix as well too, and as I discussed with Vernon, the study that was allocated, I think 85,000 or something was appropriated to go out to do the Mace Creek, or if that's the right one I'm thinking of, but
No, Mace
to
Creek's
go
on-
through Red Wing, go through Ellington Park, and to run sewer. I think that'd be a wonderful thing, and I think it'd be like something up north of Franklin here that we had to do, and to have an assessment. Or have have enough fees involved per house to help pay for that new infrastructure. So I'm all for sewer, and certainly the easements will be dedicated to down the property lines to the Holly Hill Drive to run public sewer, gravity flow, at the time that goes in. We're all willing to be annexed into. We're all willing to be annexed into Franklin as well. So. In all the proper documents that are required that we signed before on the last 2. So these are the last 4 that we have any dealing with, and it would be, I appreciate your support.
More questions, Bev?
I might, but go ahead.
Matt, any discussion for you?
Just the one question I had is, what was the cost on the small area plan when we were looking at doing this? What was that cost?
Not off the top of my head. I know that it was quite expensive per lot. Would have to get that information back to you.
And with the adjustments that you were suggesting, taking a new look at the plan, would that add or reduce the cost of that?
The intent would be to reduce that. So I don't know exactly what the cost was, but the cost was, like I said, pretty significant. And our intent when we looked at that, putting a significant cost on folks that are already maybe having septic issues or just residents that are looking for help didn't really make a lot of sense to us. And if you price the residents out of it, then nobody wins. So when we did look at it, we thought, well, it's probably better to go back, and because gravity is the number one option, it's probably better to go back and look at what if we did a combined system where we did have some pressure lines that could eliminate some of the depth that would shallow up and reduce the construction cost. And so that was what our intent was. But we can definitely get that to you.
So when you add the, so with the agreements at the point of annexation, the point that we ran sewer, however the plan was reworked, and they're annexed, they would be required to join into that sewer at that time. So
Correct,
whatever
yeah.
temporarily may be done now, the requirement is at the annexation, they would tie onto that sewer,
Right,
when we figured out how to do it.
right.
We understand too that whatever fees or costs incurred in doing this temporary fix, not credited or offset against the cost of tapping on. It's just,
Right.
Yeah.
it's just it's an expense.
Is that part of the written document, Mr. Hale?
Yeah, I haven't seen that in the documents for 1107. I didn't see that.
It
I saw the requirement,
Yeah.
but I didn't see anything there that said you're not allowed to have any credit back against it.
Yeah,
but-
we talked about it this morning on
But
the
we
phone.
understand that. But
Right.
it should be in the document.
I think that was always the intent, that you would fully participate
Right.
in
That's right.
That
an
might need
assessment
to
if
be
that was how
added,
it was
though.
done. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we understand that. We have talked to the staff people.
As an attorney, I bet you could help that. I
pretty
just want to
simple.
comment that this is something, obviously, that we've walked alongside for a few years as you see how things have been implemented. I believe it's a unique situation in so many different levels. I think it's unique that you've got a family who owns so much contiguous property and, in my opinion, doesn't have any plans to vacate. I think it's just about shuffling a different family member in and redoing the house. I also think it's unique that you've got somebody who has an issue that is willing to go ahead and personally address it, but still wait for the long-term solution. I think it's incredibly unique that you have somebody who's willing to step up and has the capacity, no pun intended, to address this for their own safety and, quality of life. So, it would seem possibly from staff's perspective to be a little bit out of the norm, but that's what makes it unique. And I obviously can support this, as you can tell by my words.
So, I was going to ask one question, and this is just for staff's ability to, if we decide to approve this. The way that the sewer is laid out today, there's a manhole at the neighborhood development that kind of stops at that property line.
River Bluff?
River Bluff, yes, ma'am, thank you. And I think there are 2 taps that comes out of that, and to Jimmy's point, and then there was a couple of different lines that kind of come out and dispersed. If we decide to go ahead and support this, I think staff would need direction on would that remain as a private line that these folks would maintain? And then would,
Why not?
and then from that point, would they need to provide calculations to us showing that all this stuff works? Because I think when we looked at the initial design, I think it was set up for 2 homes. So we would really want to go back and look at that so we didn't create an issue.
I'm glad to have Matt work with them, our engineer, and either size up my pipe if I needed to, or,
Yeah.
but I feel like we followed his protocol.
We want it to work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're living in those houses. I would assume you want it to work.
And it's a
absolutely.
quality of life
Yeah.
situation.
The reason we stress the private responsibility of it is because it is multiple services going to, a service by definition is serving one home.
We never expected the city to
So-
take on the responsibility.
Well, I'm just saying by
I know
municipal
by
code and
definition,
by our,
that was not our intent at all.
yeah,
Well,
by-
but truth be told, it's still a county subdivision.
right.
So it's a moot point that it's our responsibility to do anything right now
That's right.
until we decide that we're ready to annex. Correct?
True, correct.
They are becoming your customer.
That we serve.
So it's how we arrange for that, how that service is supported. So we just want to be clear on that, because while there's a county resident, they are on our sewer system now by this arrangement. So we just want to make sure
I
we
get that. Thanks
covered
for
all
that
that.
clarification.
Can annex in. You think the house can annex in?
I want to,
You annexed myself,
Yeah, no, you're
so
in.
I'm annexed.
So we could go ahead and annex it, or require that.
I like that garbage pickup.
So
Done.
my overarching concern, I guess, is for the neighborhood as a whole, as I think is clear. So I'm curious if they're starting to have septic issues. I can imagine there's going to be a lot of other people in the neighborhood having septic issues, and how do we move forward with those and start trying to address that? Is there a way that we can look at that holistically? And
Has anybody taken a survey of these neighbors? Because, you know, if that's the case, I mean, and we go ahead and approve this, and then maybe you survey them and ask them and see if there's enough people that want want sewer. Here's another thing. Down at, you got Highgate now. So Highgate was one of my favorite places because those people were, the big problem there was we had two houses. We had one house, these people were actually living in it still, and going next door, they had such wonderful neighbors, and they had a back end where they had a back door, and they gave them a key, and they came in and used their restroom.
Wow.
And they used their shower, and they allowed them to do that. They were doing that. They couldn't wash their dishes, they couldn't do, but they had to have a place to live. And they weren't kicked out of there yet, but they were going to lose their home. And the other people next to them were going to lose their home very shortly. And I was told on this board at that time in 2006, absolutely no grinder pumps. We don't do grinder pumps. And I went, we'll see about that, because we needed to get sewer for that whole neighborhood, about 29 properties or something. And we had a couple on the hill, and we really needed grinder pumps. But I couldn't get any information. Nobody was willing at that time, before your time, Eric, was willing to give me any information on septics or grinders. So I went on up to Brentwood and said, would you have a meeting with me, and would you give me a tutorial? I'm going to walk in here and act like a 5-year-old, and you're going to do a tutorial on grinder pumps for me. After I got all that information and got more specific in grinder pumps, I came in here at our CSC meeting and I gave a tutorial for everybody on grinder pumps. And by golly, everybody understood why 3 or 4 of those properties needed the grinder pumps at the time. And then we ended up getting sewer for the entire subdivision, and these people's homes were saved. That's one of the things. I would not want to be walking in my house and have that sewer smell. Been there, done that with a friend. That was awful. But I think with this could be addressed, but I also think we need to reach out to that neighborhood and have a plan and start looking at that. But people are going to have to want to annex in if they want sewer. Nobody else is having problems. My sister's lived in the same house, I don't know how many years and years and years, longer than you guys. And she still has a septic system. But there's somebody else down the street in her neighborhood that's losing their septic system. But they've got another field. But the county makes it extremely difficult. Even if you didn't have that stuff in the backyard, they make it extremely difficult for you to get another septic tank in there. And then they require that.
I think a
So-
survey would be great too, Alderman, just through the entire community of Red Wing and Ellington Park.
That's a good idea.
Just to find out if they're having any septic issues.
Because we need to plan.
Because that could accelerate the potential infrastructure to be allocated and the fees to be determined, and, reconcile all of that together, because I'd much rather buy a sewer tap to that extent for gravity, and along with everyone else. So I think there's an
It's a
opportunity.
bigger picture.
Bigger picture.
Yeah. But right now, we have some issues to solve for you all, and it is a different situation.
It's
and
temporary, too,
It's,
sure.
it is temporary, but I'm not opposed to a grinder pump. I think they work well, and they'll
Got
serve
them all
the
over the
need.
county.
Yeah,
There's
So,
several thousand homes with them right now, all over the county.
yeah.
Matt?
I just might offer up the other answer I'd say is I think the uniqueness here is you've got somebody who's going to pay for it, maintain it,
Yeah.
own it, and do it. I don't know that other residences are going to be able to do that. There's a means and a capability and all that to be able to maintain this thing in a temporary fashion.
And a proximity.
In a proximity. And I think that's what makes it sort of unique. I don't know that anybody could just walk in here and say, I'll do all this, maintain it, and take care of it and all that. And I think that's what's crossing the threshold for me is that
Yeah.
they're going to own it, they're going to take care of it, and as soon as we provide, a mechanism to tap in, they'll be the first ones to go jumping in on it.
And they're all right there. They're not scattered throughout the subdivision.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to
I understand.
get you
Yeah.
to predict the
Oh, yeah, I
future
know. You
or
gave
anything
us
like that.
You're
But
doing your job.
I'm curious, so if somebody directly across the street from them has failing septic, are they going to be
Well, they're not
allowed to connect to
contiguous.
it as well?
They're not
I mean,
contiguous.
I've always heard on the board here
Yeah.
that
They
the
wanna-
only consideration would be given if they were contiguous.
Well, and you also
Well,
said it was a
I'm saying-
private system.
Well, by definition, it wouldn't be, but if we say, if they're accepting responsibility and ownership of it, yeah, it would be a private system. No, I'm thinking, so
Which stops
if we come today and say that you guys can do this for these homes, and the person across the street says, my septic is failing and I'm going to lose my house, what are we telling them?
What do we need to do? That's true. What do we need to do?
So that's why I'm curious what.
Yeah, and I
that
think-
Well,
direction
they want to
would be.
annex in, then we're going to have to solve their problem for them.
Yeah, I think the
We're gonna
only
have to
reason
pay for
Scott
it.
brings that up is because we've had these issues where we've extended sewer and then folks have come in and requested sewer, and thankfully, most of them haven't really had septic
Yeah.
issues, but there's always the me next, concern. And so, we just want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves, not you guys, but we're putting ourselves in a situation where it makes it challenging in the future. And the other thing is I think the reason Scott said private system is because they're going to maintain that system on theirs. So the municipal code actually says that it's a public system to the city's responsibility, the property line. So if you guys approve that, that's the way we would design it, their system to own and maintain, which would just serve them. So that's.
Which
what we're
would
looking at.
also come to an end at some point if we end up bringing sewer to Red
Right.
Wing Meadows.
I agree with
We
that.
prefer the sewer.
I know.
I mean, the public sewer.
Right.
And we-
Yeah,
and we recognize that.
And that can be
your
written in.
staff is sincere about what they're charged to do, as the county is, with their septic system. And thank goodness you don't have the septic systems to deal with, frankly. We dealt with that for my hair was dark. So, but it has gotten onerous. And a lot of all these houses, I would venture to say, most, if not all the houses in Red Wing could not bring their systems up to compliance with current standards. The primary system, the reserve system, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just too old.
What is the cost of a single lot system that you would install? If somebody across the street said, I got a failing system and I want to do the same, what would it even cost them to do that?
A grinder pump, complete system is about $20,000. And that's to the property line. That's not considered the force main of the street.
Not up since I've yelled.
And tapping into sewer when ultimately available at some point in that plant, what was that cost? Was it higher, lower, similar?
Oh, I think it's higher. I think it's much higher than
Depends
that.
on-
Well, it depends. I mean,
Yeah,
the
depends on-
impact fees and all that is, you're looking around the $10,000 ballpark.
Yeah, and you
So I think that's part of the answer too,
Yeah.
is I think as people,
The
if
length.
people across the street who are not contiguous, I think then that's where the conversation and the survey starts happening to say, you may be facing this at some point
Right.
in the future. We need to start planning for that, because you're either going to pay for
No.
some other system or you need to tap into, and therefore then do we start planning for that
Right.
with them?
Yeah, I think we do.
All right, are we ready to vote?
I think we have to.
I just want to make sure I understand. So we're going to do this contingent on annexation agreement, availability agreement. The same conditions as the other properties where they're responsible for connecting and all that. And then we're going to add a clause or something in there that they don't get credit
No
back.
offset.
Right.
Fully participate
Yeah,
in
fully participate.
a
is the
special
word.
assessment
And-
situation.
We're going to do a survey of the neighborhood to see about the septic.
That's separate, yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
and privately
And
maintained.
you can use the word private in that as well.
Privately
Yeah.
maintained, but also required to participate if sewer is brought to the area in that district.
The standard agreements, annexation obligation.
Yeah, I think
all
you
that
have to
stuff.
have that in there.
Yeah, we understand all.
Yeah, for the city's sake.
All right, let's
Right.
vote. Alderman Berger,
Yes.
Alderman Brown,
Yes.
Alderman Blanton votes yes. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Easter, everyone.
Item number 4, consideration of ordinance 2023-37, an ordinance to amend Title 23 of the City of Franklin Municipal Code to revise definitions, clarify requirements, and to correct grammatical and typographical errors in the stormwater management ordinance. Michelle, is that you know, Paul?
Somebody didn't use spell check.
Yep. You all know Jeff Willoughby, our stormwater manager.
Yes.
He's been working on he basically creates a list over a 3-year period and of all the little changes we'd like to make to our stormwater ordinance, and it really is minor tweaks and grammatical changes and slight changes in definitions to clarify our intent. He does a great job with it, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
And for me, move for approval.
All right.
Second.
You have a first and a second.
Spell check.
Yeah, no doubt. Alderman Berger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Item number 5, consideration of resolution 2024-16, a resolution to award the construction contract for the Harlansdale Main Barn project. Woohoo! To MTLC Building Group in the amount of $2,796,000.
Wow.
Shahad Abdul Rahman was our project manager on this. We're very excited to be delivering another capital project. We had estimated.
No one's more excited than Lisa.
Yes, we had estimated between 4 and 5, so we were very thrilled with the bid when it came down to 2.79 million, and we're recommending award.
What was it?
2,796,000.
So
I was
came in-
expecting it to be a bigger number too.
Yeah,
to be
well
honest.
under our projection, which
Yeah.
is
What was
a
that?
thrill.
Between
5
4 and
million.
5.
24.
It was between 4 and 5 million.
Oh,
Yeah, I was surprised. Seems like everything costs that much these days. So.
Ma'am,
Is this,
I-
the same, is this the same firm that's worked on
did you
Hayes?
move for approval?
I just
House?
did.
So I would just mention too, this is the same contractor that's working on the Hayes home right now.
Is it?
And they've done a high level of work. Of course, that's more of a blend with us working with friends,
Yeah.
but that's a good sign too.
Yeah.
Friends of Franklin.
Friends
Park.
of Franklin Park.
That's right.
But they're also our friends.
True that, but I mean,
Yes,
yeah, we work with our P's.
That's right.
Yeah, it sounded a little weird.
it does.
All right, Matt
Yeah,
gave me a
I
first.
second it.
Second from Bev. Everybody ready to vote?
Yep.
All right, Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, passes unanimously. Item number 6, consideration of draft City of Franklin contract number 2024-0079 with In-N-Out, Goose Creek Bypass Subdivision for a road impact fee offset agreement for an amount not to exceed $168,300.
What's that?
This is for some minor turn lane improvements and minor improvements on Goose Creek and Lewisburg that came out of their traffic impact study. This is well under the impact fees they're paying. They're in agreement to do it.
Yeah.
We recommend approval. We're just trying to move it forward fast to get it.
Yep.
Typically, you have to have this approved with the development plan. So that's why it's still in draft. We're trying to push it forward to get caught up to the development
Okay,
plan.
I move for
approval.
approval.
Second.
All right, first and a second. Move to vote. No discussion, correct? Alderman Berger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, passes unanimously. And the last item on the agenda is our typical capital projects dashboard and status updates. Anything you want to highlight, John?
The few things I'll highlight, Jordan Road is now closed, so we're under construction on
yeah.
Jordan Road. So sorry, no more
I was
cut
so glad to
throughs.
see that, though.
No,
Took
no
a trailer down
yeah.
there the other day, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh man, I cannot wait till this is done."
Yeah,
I
sorry.
will highlight,
I'm so glad to see it was closed.
Yeah.
I started that project in 2009.
I used to
know.
skip school going down that road, and now you can't even go through the whole thing.
Yeah, sorry. No cut throughs
I'm
for a
so
little while.
glad. I'm the happy camper.
Yeah, we're progressing. So the contract is scheduled to last for about a year. Contractor's goal is to be done about this time next year.
Oh, wow.
But contractor, we're obligated with Northside at McEwen, the apartment complex on the corner of Aspen Grove and Jordan Road, when we were acquiring right away from them, because the only access to their garage, which is the only vehicular access to that corner lot where all the vehicles are going to park, is off of Jordan Road. What we worked out with them, because the site's still under construction, is during construction of that site, we're going to still allow access from that end for their contractor only to deliver. So there'll be one lane of access for them only to get
On
product
Jordan
to and on Jordan Road to and from at least that portion of their site. Now, the rest of the site will remain closed. And then once they get a CO, so a certificate of occupancy, sorry, get a little tongue tied there, we will actually allow two-way traffic, so that will not impede their flow of traffic. So knowing that, our contractor is working their best to try to get that end of the project under curb and gutter and binder as quickly as they can. So they're working, or they're going to start working now that they've got the roadway closed,
Yeah.
to get that end of the project done the soonest possible, to make sure that they can accommodate that schedule.
When do they, when is that development at Northside McEwen in the back end there by Jordan supposed to be done? Do you know?
The original, so the original schedule we had anticipation was July of this year, so that's what we had written into.
Probably October.
It may not be July, but that's what we had originally written into, but our real trigger is certificate, I'm gonna do it again, certificate of occupancy. So that's where we're really breaking that off of, if is that particular date, but we had tentatively planned on July of this year, and that's what our contractor is shooting for, at least for that portion of the project.
Yeah, I was looking at it the other day and I thought, oh, this is going to be finished pretty soon. So it wouldn't be too long.
And this project also does have up to $100,000 early completion incentive, so it's the same as the liquidated damages. Either I think it's $1,000 or $1,500 per day up to it. It's capped, and the contractor has told us at the pre-construction meeting that they want to do everything possible to try to get as much of that incentive as possible.
Why is this taking a year? Because of the bridge?
The bridge and just because they're reconstructing the entire roadway.
Oh.
It's a full, basically a full rip up and redo. So
All
we're
the
going
way-
Old country road.
yeah, it's an old country
But all
road.
the way to,
All the way to the mall.
Mallory?
Not quite Mallory, but all the way to the movie theater entrance.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we're reconstructing that entire roadway. So basically, from a lane and a half that it is now, it'll be
It's a half a lane now.
yeah, basically. So it'll be 2.5 lanes because it'll have 2 lanes. There'll be the turn lanes where needed, bike lanes, and
In the bridge.
a bridge and sidewalks on each side,
They're
and
all
a
on
brand
each
new
side?
bridge
You're
on
moving
both
the overhead
sides.
power too, that takes time.
Well, the
already.
overhead power's already moved.
Okay.
Yeah,
But sidewalks on both
Yeah, we got
sides.
sewer.
Sidewalks on both
Oh,
sides.
that's amazing.
Yes.
Well, there's going to be a lot of pedestrian
Yeah.
traffic there, too. Okay.
What else? Yeah.
Other ones I have, we are getting very, very close to opening up Pratt Lane again. So the roadway's under binder now. We're doing some final touch-up work to get the drainage right on both sides of that roadway. As soon as we get that done, we'll come back in and do the topping. So hopefully by the end of this month, not by the end of this month, by the end of next month, when I talk to you again next month, we should be very close to opening at that point and giving that road back to everybody. And it's my understanding the Streets Department is actually resurfacing Pratt Lane right about now.
As he just left, you could have asked him.
My understanding is they're resurfacing, I believe, tomorrow. I thought they got special approval to go ahead and
There he
resurface
is.
tomorrow.
What, are you resurfacing Pratt Lane
Come
as
here.
we speak?
Come here.
We are resurfacing.
Come here.
I thought I was correct in that.
Come here.
No.
Did they delay that?
So,
Put your mic,
yes.
put your mic on. I want to hear this, too.
Okay.
I looked and I was like, and he's not here anymore.
So y'all have to bring me back up to speed. Sorry, I was out of the room.
Pratt Lane.
He said you're resurfacing as we speak.
So we did have that on the schedule, but we have scratched part of that project for now, putting part of it on pause until after we get all the bridge work done and that entire project cleaned up.
Good man.
They're gonna get paid.
Yes.
Yes,
paid, but after-
just delayed,
Just
just
at one
currently
time.
delayed.
Okay.
Till after we get a little
After the
further along
bridge
in
is
the
complete.
I think
construction.
that'll work out better for everybody.
So we had talked about, speaking of bridges, trying to recognize Margaret's Bridge. Are we literally going to make that happen?
We can do that, yeah.
I mean, we don't want
We've
to
talked
use
about-
her
yeah.
naming rights for something so small.
No.
After her contribution, which realistically, I think we need to name the big bridge on Franklin Road where the chickens fell off the truck after Margaret. When we get that one
She dropped
done.
chicken.
Seriously, how many times
Everybody
have we
had
heard
chicken
that
night
story?
Yeah.
But I do think that it would be nice if Jonathan, I'm going to count on you to make that happen.
And I have said the same thing to Paul and our project manager. And since we got done basically in December,
Hopefully she's not
January, I just wanted to wait till it got a little warmer to do
Okay.
something a little nicer weather. Yes, we wanted to do something as well because I know she was very adamant that we get that one done. So
We are, one of the things we've talked about just recently is being a little more intentional about recognizing the completion of projects. Sometimes we just want to move on because we are glad it's done, it's completed, but we go to the next thing and we don't take a breath to recognize it. So this is an example.
Franklin
Margaret's
Road.
Bridge. The water reclamation facility, we're looking at early May is actually Water Week. So we're hoping to try to do something with that week. And so we'll look at some things to make sure we take a moment to recognize what we're doing and that we've made these improvements.
Well,
So-
when McEwen,
Yeah, it's all you.
when McEwen opens,
we expect a small fireworks display.
no small anything. High school bands. I may be out there on my
We'll have a
walker.
parade.
We'll have a parade.
A parade on McEwen
I may be
4.
coming in my walker by then, but I will be there, God willing, and we will do it upright.
And
We'll put
will
you in a
lead the
convertible
parade.
at the beginning, in
I
front
get
of the
my
parade.
baton out. I have it in the closet. I still saved it. So.
Do y'all have any questions on any
I do.
projects?
Yeah, I do.
I
not.
do have a couple of
Yeah.
additional ones to mention real quickly. So Harlansdale Farm, the trail project's coming along very, very quickly. They're doing
Thanks,
final
Steve.
touch-up stuff on that one now as well. So in the next month or so, we should be finalizing that one, bringing a final change order forward. The bridge and the trail,
Oh.
multi-use trail, that one is looking great out there. Contractor's doing an amazing job out there. The other one, part of the Bundle Bridge projects as well, and I think Steve's still back there. One of the things they asked us to look at with that one as well was doing the bridge approaches on the Baker's Bridge
Oh, yeah.
over 65 and Mallory Lane Bridge. They're right there near Jordan Road. We've started working on the Baker's Bridge approaches. One of the things we found as we started to get into that was there's actually some undermining under the approaches. So what has happened is water has gotten underneath the approaches and actually started to void out the soil and actually the stone that was underneath that approach. So you'll see a change order come in front of the
And
board
I
here
briefed the
shortly.
board on that on
Excellent.
Tuesday night.
Okay, perfect.
And that's one I've given approval on as an emergency
Yes,
repair.
well, we were already there.
Yeah, so that's, while we've got that group there and we're ready to go. And we can say 105,000 is the last number I saw, but we are finalizing all that.
We are finalizing that now, and luckily, Bell Constructors was is the contractor we have already working on that project, and actually, they're also one of the on-call emergency contractors for TDOT who does their emergency bridge repairs, so that worked out in our favor. So I wanted to give everybody a heads up that work's ongoing out there, so when you see cones and barrels and signage out there, that's what's happening out there, is what we're doing.
Do you know how long they expect that repair to?
The original repairs were only going to take 2 to 3 weeks. We had given them a 30-day window to do those repairs. It's probably going to take a little longer with the additional repairs, but it's still not a massive undertaking.
Okay.
So I would expect a couple additional weeks probably, but nothing drastic.
Okay.
And that's all I had.
Alderman Brown, what would you like to say?
Bicentennial, are we onto the site now, or is that road going to remain closed?
It will
Is it going to remain
yeah,
closed
we've
for the
scheduled for it to
duration?
remain closed, and at this point, it's really torn up.
Yeah.
Pretty bad. We've started out with doing some minor crossings. Now we've really started into all the storm sewer installations. So it's really pretty much destroyed at this point, and we're rebuilding the entire roadway.
Yeah, so throughout the project, we should just count on that being.
At this point, it's being closed. One of the things we've talked about, and I've talked about with our folks, is a little better planning in the future with regard to I've noticed that the contractor really initially, they did a couple of minor crossings and really just kind of kept it for staging. And I've told our folks, and I talked to Adam Mosier, our traffic engineer, about better phasing that. If they're just going to use it for phasing, let's keep the road open, even though that's, it's time consuming for the contractor to open it, close it, open and close it. We've got to better understand that that's also, it's better for the public to have those roads to use. That's what I've explained to our team.
Yeah.
Time frame for bicentennial generally?
We started out, I believe it was 15 months with that one when we started. So we should be, we were about 6 to 8 months into it at this point. We may be a touch behind with that one, but I think there's been no ask for an additional time extension at this point.
Early end of the year?
It should be end of the year, early
Okay.
next year.
Okay.
Is what we should still be at
Interesting.
right now. And we are starting to go vertical now at this point. If you go out there, it doesn't look like it yet.
I've
but
seen the concrete.
You're starting to see concrete work happening now. And the good thing is you're not actually building a full building. We're building a
Stage.
kind of a shed structure. So
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor,
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
he was saying I'm done, and I got you back.
Curious on the start date on the Harlansdale barn and finish.
So the Harlansdale barn, so we just brought that forward today. So as soon as the board approves that, we'll schedule a pre-construction meeting and then shortly thereafter. So I would assume within the next 30 to 45 days, we'll get a start date on that, on the barn. We actually we just about to issue a work order to do lead-based paint testing and asbestos testing, just to cross all our Ts and dot our Is. So we're doing that as well while we're waiting for the approval of the contracts. I believe the total contract time on that one was a year, is what I've got in my head.
I'll hit one too if I can.
Yeah.
Are you done, Mayor?
I'm done.
Bidding for Southeast
I
Park
was gonna say
and
it,
for
yeah.
Robinson Lake. Yeah, beat you to it, sorry.
We've been going back and forth with the designers to get the specs finalized where we want them with the earthwork. We had some issues with the earthwork and wanted that finalized so that we didn't get hit with a big change order, was our big concern with that one. we're getting very close with that, and Paul and I have talked about that extensively here recently. Within the next 30 to 45 days, we should be prepared to get that one out to bid.
Out to
Yes,
bid.
out to bid.
Okay.
And then construction will start once we decide, and then it'll be 2 to 2.5 years.
Correct. Actually, 2.5 to 3 years is what will be the.
It is like, I can't believe anybody.
Yes.
Everybody
No,
tells me
two
different.
2.5
things.
to 3 years will be the construction time.
And why is that so long for like greenfield development that's not but
Ju-
one building?
That one's just the size of the project at Bicentennial Park. It's just the scale of the project. I mean, you're over 200,000 cubic yards of earthwork.
But we're phasing it, is what I thought. So a first
And
phase.
We're phasing it, but we're building the entire roadway into the park. We're building 5 athletic fields. You're building the entire maintenance facility. We are phasing it, but that first phase is much bigger than what the remaining phases
You
are.
can't go vertical till we have binder down on the ground around the building for fire suppression, water line installed.
I have to have all the utilities installed.
We won't.
I just don't want my
grandchildren.
grandchildren to be in high school when it opens.
Yes,
Now, what
we
I
understand.
will tell you, because of the size of that project, when we do start bidding the project, what I would like our team to do is engage the contractors and say, can we do it faster than
Yes.
what we're saying? And at that point, if we can get 2 or 3 to commit to doing it faster, there will be an opportunity to push the deadline up as an amendment.
And as Alderman Blanton referenced, it being, I mean, they have the site. It's not like other places where we've got roadway, pedestrian,
No.
neighborhood interaction that we got to manage. They've got it, so they can go. You know what I mean? There's less
Yes.
interface with existing development or traffic or other things. So hopefully there are some opportunities. to
And will those
expedite.
incentives be built into this project as we've been doing recently?
We have not recently on the park projects been putting incentives on the park projects.
We would need to talk about that internally.
Yes.
If you're interested, we can explore
We
that.
can certainly
Okay.
discuss that.
Yeah.
Of course. Beth,
Yeah, when are we going to go out to bid
It's,
on the M word?
On the M
You can
word,
say it.
We're basically waiting for our
No,
permits.
because I get a bingo.
We're waiting for our.
They're
Actually-
picking up the game that choose to
Actually,
play with
no,
Dana.
It left with Dana.
At this point, McEwen's, it's the free space in the middle. It's the free space in the middle. No more bingo on that one. We're still waiting for our permits to come in at this point is where we're at. We've submitted for our permits. We're waiting for our permits to come back in.
Go to bid.
As soon as we get those back in, we'll submit the final bid book, everything to TDOT for final approval. And when they give us that final approval, once we get the permits in, then we can go out to bid.
Yeah, and
How
then
many
because of the
months?
permits we're getting, we have to go out for a 30-day advertisement
Yeah.
to see if there's.
When do you think that might
input.
be?
I mean,
Give me a
30 to
ballpark.
45 days.
yes. No, not 30 to 45 days.
No, that one I'm not.
Once we get the permits and we got to
By
get through
June?
CDOT, and that's the hard part to predict is what it's going to take. But yes, summertime, early summer, that thing is going to be bid out. Is what
I don't
our
want
goal is
it
at this
bid out
point,
in July
given-
and August,
yeah,
September.
early summer is what we're going
June.
for, as soon as we can.
June. Do I need to go wrestle
I will
somebody?
do it sooner if I can.
Anything else for
Yeah,
the good of
Liberty
this
Pike, they're finally
committee?
going to do Liberty Pike, aren't they?
Nope.
Because
Yeah.
all the screens are up.
Yep, I think Ralph is starting, and I meant to call him actually to check in on that.
Yeah, I
So
got
can follow up
somebody
with
call me the other day.
That's
Said,
South Star doing a project on Liberty Pike from
Four-laning it.
Carruthers to essentially Columbia State Community College.
I saw all the I saw the screens up and everything, and I thought, oh, they're obviously getting ready. Do we know when that's happening?
I don't, but I'll follow up with Ralph or
you
South
give me an
Star,
update?
and then I'll
I could
send
call
an
him, but he
email
don't
out.
hear from me again.
I will entertain my favorite motion.
Move to adjourn.
Amen.
Second.
Happy Easter.
Hey, saw a whole lot of paint.